My name is Karthik Badrinath. I head the sales development for LinkedIn here in India, specifically for the enterprise accounts, staffing, academic, and government. I've been with LinkedIn for over 8 years right now. I completed 8 years in August. This is my third role here at LinkedIn. I was a relationship manager for large accounts in the past. And previous to that, I was also a new business acquisition representative here at LinkedIn. A little bit more about who I am and what I've achieved over the last few years. I'm a LinkedIn Power Profile. Now, what exactly is a LinkedIn Power Profile? LinkedIn today has close to 100 million members. And out of this 100 million members, LinkedIn chooses approximately anywhere around, say, 30 of them to say that, okay, these people have brought in a lot of engagement onto the platform, and they chose them as LinkedIn Power Profiles, right? So I was a part of that entire selection of sorts. Along with that, I'm also a LinkedIn certified recruiter. I use the tools to help other organizations in terms of how they can recruit great talent a lot more better. Of course, I'm omnipresent on all social media platforms. I love to keep it extremely lively whenever I'm having these kind of conversations. So I thought, let's start with a little bit of humor. So I thought, what more than use a lot of sales puns to give you an understanding of how complicated sales can get, but how fun sales can get as well. I'm sure all of you have heard of saying that sales is very, very stressful. It can be stressful if you don't enjoy the process. Today, I'm going to showcase a few things that you can do to enjoy the process of sorts. Second is, it can get really confusing. But again, if you stick to the process, if you stick to the entire, method in the entire madness, I'm sure you can control that chaos as well. And of course, there's going to be a lot of rejections that you're going to face. One thing that I'm going to give you an invitation to is be okay with that rejection. All right, be okay with the entire process of people saying no, because you're going to improve over a period of time with your skills and your tenets when you hear those kind of rejections of sorts, right? Today, what I'm going to essentially focus for all of you is speak about the 5 stages of sales. This is something that I have stuck on to for over a period of time and has really added a lot of value when I'm sticking to this particular process, right? Now, for any particular business to be very, very successful on the sales function, there are 5 things that we essentially do. Let's just say when you're setting up a new business itself, right, and you want to start the entire sales function. Or on the other end, you're an existing business which wants to ensure that you fine tune it. You bring in a certain process, you bring in a certain amount of stages to the entire sales part of it. I would recommend that you stick to these 5 stages of sales. The first one essentially is what I call doing a lot of industry research. Now, industry research can be very, very useful and is the foundation for any particular sales process to be successful. Now, I'm going to explain to you in 2-3 notes in terms of 2-3 formats of sorts. Let's just say you're starting off a new business, right? It is very, very essential that you identify which is the industry that you need to sell into. It's usually not the automatic process. Now, let's just say you've started off into a SaaS-based subscription, or let's just say you started off with something on the lines of an internet product. It essentially does not mean that you sell only to information technology companies. You need to understand the nature of your product. You need to understand the nature of your service and where it can be really useful. And that's where industry research comes into really, really importance of sorts. Now, the first thing that we are going to be doing today is going to be talking how exactly can you do a lot of industry research. And there are, of course, platforms and tools that even at LinkedIn today we use as a part of my entire team. So I'm going to give you a little bit of input in terms of how do we do industry research. And of course, this is not the only industry that I'm a part of. Other industries such as human resources, training, services, and of course now into SaaS-based platforms. So I've also guided all of those particular businesses in terms of what are the right tools for you to do a lot of industry research. Now, the first way that I would recommend in terms of doing industry research is online resources, right? Now, there are a lot of tools that are already there, which collate a lot of information for you and make that possible, make that available for you in a ready format. At LinkedIn and at my sales function today, I would strongly recommend 4 to 5 of them that consistently give you enough information about a certain industry. The first one is definitely in terms of Zoom Info, right? It is a wonderful database for you to understand how many companies are a part of that particular industry, how many subcategories they are there in terms of that particular industry. Closer to home, I would definitely recommend this website called Zobacop. Zobacop allows you to go into minor aspects of the industry, more of sub-industries. You can also filter them basis on which are the companies that are registered as per the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Companies which have been striked off from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And of course, you can definitely understand what is the size of that particular organization. Now, especially when it comes to if you are selling a certain product which you want to sell it volume, you would want to definitely look at which are the organizations which are larger in nature. So that's where Zobacop gives you this wonderful filtration of basis of size as well, right? Third is definitely LinkedIn. LinkedIn has this, some of them are free filters that are there on linkedin.com, wherein you can go into those particular filters and select, hey, these are the industries that I want to understand a little bit more, right? And then if you're thinking on the global side, right, nothing is better than DNB or Hoover's, right? Or it's called as Dun and Bradstreet. This has been very effective for me, especially when it comes to global markets. When we are trying to sell in the US market, this is the best way for me to understand which are the companies in that particular market of sorts. And of course, there are a lot of industry bodies wherein you can understand, like the Confederation of Indian Industries and the UK government website, the US government website. These are certain industry bodies that you can get a lot of information from. The next is definitely participate in a lot of networking, right? And there are multiple ways that you can do it. One is in terms of identify closer to your home or closer to metro cities or closer to the larger cities in terms of which are the industry events that are happening, especially in those particular markets wherein there is a lot of economic activity. You will notice that industry events are very, very common in nature. Do not neglect them. Do not ignore them, because that's the best way for you to understand which is the industry that's going to boom in the next few years. Who are the people in that particular industry, and a lot more. There are also certain paid networking bodies such as BNI and Young Entrepreneurship Council, the Rotary Membership, Lions Club, and a lot more. Of course, you can also lean on SHRM and People Matters to give you entry into all of these particular industry networking events. You can also participate in a lot of trade conferences as well. And the last part is also you can study a lot of publications. These can be market research report. You can also study the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, wherein you can get an understanding of which are the industries that the government has started prioritizing of sorts. You can also lean on certain top Indian universities. I know that IIT and IIM definitely publish a lot of publications wherein they give a little bit of an outlook of what's going to be happening in the future. And you can also lean on financial institutions to give you a little bit of understanding of how those industries are going to be performing. These can be banks, these can be NBFCs, wherein a lot of these financial institutions give out written publications in terms of this is what they see as an outlook for the future. Mutual fund reports are also a great way for you to understand where are markets going to be invested in, what do they see as trends. So this way, one of the first steps that I would recommend is identify your industry, identify where you want to be. Now that your platform or the first floor of your entire universe is set, the next step is definitely to move forward from industry research to stage number 2, which is essentially in terms of prioritizing the companies that you want to reach out to. You've entered the market. Just imagine yourself walking in an entire road wherein you finalize, okay, this is the road that I'm going to be walking in. Now you have to decide, okay, these are the buildings I'm going to enter. These are the companies that I'm going to start interacting. Now, how exactly do you go about prioritizing these particular companies? I'm going to give you 3 inputs there. The first one is in terms of deciding what is the size of the customer that I want to start focusing on. You can choose to work with startups, which is essentially say 0 to 75 member organizations, which are just looking at funding. You can also look at those particular organizations which are very, very early in their entire business operation. Then there is SMB, which is traditionally around 100 member to 300 member organization. And then we have mid-market, which is say 300 to 500 member organizations. And then enterprise accounts, which you can classify as 500 member organizations or more. And of course, there are these global companies which have operations beyond one particular country or have their presence in multiple countries. Now, when you're going to be positioning your product or you're positioning your service, you might want to decide, you can start choosing mid-market organizations to start off with, and then look at enterprise accounts or global accounts. Or on the other way, you feel that, hey, this is a one-time sell that I'm going to make. I'm going to be selling and moving on. I do not really need to focus on volume. I'm just going to focus on a minimal quantity. Then you can also consider startups and SMB organizations because they will have the appetite to just pick up that one instead of going for volume. The second classification that you can do is in terms of geographical location. Of course, you can go by state, then you can go by region, then you can go by country, and then continental distribution as well. Just to give you a sneak peek into how LinkedIn does it today, we definitely have regional offices wherein we have a Bangalore-based office, we have a Delhi-based office, but we also have a larger classification of, say, APAC or EMEA or NAMER, which is essentially the US, and then, of course, LATAM, right? So this way, you can go all the way from state-wise organizations to continental distributions as well. The third one is you can look at certain segmentation basis of size of price, right? What is the potential of me getting a certain order? What is the customer lifetime value of that particular organization? If you're a SaaS-based organization or if you're a subscription-based product, you can definitely look at not what you're going to be selling the first time, but you can also look at what it is going to grow into, right? You can also start ensuring that you have a lot of manpower for customer relationship managers basis on the customer lifetime value. You can also look at customer demographics, right? You can also look at the purchase frequency and the history. When I say purchase frequency, how often do they look at picking it up? So that way you can start prioritizing your accounts. And of course, you can also classify it basis on the revenue of that particular organization. So this is essentially in terms of how I would prioritize my accounts. Now I'm going into the next stage, which is essentially in terms of talking about finding your decision makers. This is very, very critical, right? Ultimately, even after you prioritize your accounts or identify the industry, you need to know whom am I going to be selling into. I need to find out who's the leader of the entire organization. If mine is a product, let's just say it's a financial services product, then you need to decide, okay, I need to find out who's the chief financial officer or the finance manager. If mine is a product which is really going to be used on the shop floor, then I need to find out who's the head of production or head of operations. Or if mine is a product which is more to do with talent management or recruiting, then I need to identify the CHROs of those particular organizations. Now, what I'm going to give you today is give you some tips in terms of how can you find these decision makers. The first few resources that I'm going to give you is definitely websites such as LinkedIn. All you need to do is go on to LinkedIn and search for those particular people. Then you can also go into company websites, Job.com, Google search. And I use a few websites such as Clearbit, Discover.org, or the org.com. Now, I'll give you a sneak peek into how each of them actually work. Now, let's start with LinkedIn. There are definitely certain paid tools on LinkedIn, which is called as the Sales Navigator, wherein I can, when I've already prioritized, like for example, in this particular example, I'm going to show you the current company that I've perhaps chosen is Juno School of Business. As soon as I select that, I'm also going to get who are the decision makers within that organization. So I can go on to LinkedIn, use the free side of LinkedIn as well. Just type in the name of the company. I can get who are the top members in that particular organization, right? The second one is going into websites, right? Now, when I go into websites, I can easily identify who are the decision makers in that particular company. There is always a name. You can then use that particular name to search on various social media networks, or you can reach out to these particular organizations. Something that I keep telling a lot of my sales people is pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and talk to the reception, talk to the security, and ask them to connect you to the right decision maker. They will do a lot of gatekeeping, but they will also allow you to be put across to the right decision maker if you make the right pitch, right? So it's important that you can also use the website information to find out who's the decision maker that you want to talk to. And then what I mentioned to you in terms of Zobacop, if you're an organization that is increasingly looking at targeting, say, directors of the organization or owners of that particular company, you can go on to Zobacop, type the name of the company that you want to really do a lot of decision maker research. When you type that name of the company, you'll be able to see under the director details who are the directors within that particular organization. So that way you'll also get some more information on which is the person that I want to sell to. And of course, no search complete without using Google for our researches, right? So I use these smaller mathematical equations of sorts, wherein I type in the name of the company and then I type in the words such as CEO, or I type in the name of the company and mention head of sales. That way I'm going to easily get the person's name, some profile that is there. Like maybe he's spoken in a seminar. His profile is there on Twitter, or his profile is there on LinkedIn. His profile was perhaps there on their company website with the same designation. This way I can get this information just by asking Google, saying that, okay, help me with this information. And one of my favorite sites is something that I call the org.com. And this is absolutely free. All right. And there are paid versions of it as well, but you can definitely leverage on the free version as well. All you need to do is go on to the org.com, type in that particular industry, type in that particular location. You should be able to get the information of that particular organization. And when you click on the name of the company, you should also be able to see whichever decision maker that they have already mapped. You should be able to find that particular information. It also presents a very nice way of an organizational chart. All right, so right from the CEO, then whoever reports into him, and then his subordinates. So basis of whatever information they find on the free internet or people inputting this information, they prepare these organization charts as well. So do leverage this particular website to see how exactly can you get the right information of the right decision maker. Now we have found our decision makers, right? Just to recap what we have done till now, we've identified, okay, I'm going to chase all the companies which specifically manufacture plastic organizations. Now I've decided, okay, these are the 10 companies that I'm going to be prioritizing. Then I've decided, okay, I'm going to be finding the decision makers, the CEOs of the company or the shop floor executives, or I'm going to find out who's the head of operations and a lot more. The next step for me to do is in terms of doing a little bit of outreach. Now, what is outreach? I'm going to be reaching out to these decision makers, positioning my product or positioning my service, right? In the new age, there are definitely 3 ways that I would strongly recommend that you consider doing outreach, all right? And the first way is definitely consider doing email outreach. A lot of times you will face this particular rejection of sorts saying that, hey, when you reach out to specifically the reception of the organization, right? They will say the decision maker is not free. He can't talk to you right now, but you can perhaps take the email ID and send out an email outreach of sorts. The first thing that I would recommend is do that email outreach. Have that person understand a little bit more so that next time when you call them back, they will automatically understand who you are because there's already a reference point. So do not shy away from sending out an email. I'm going to give you some examples in terms of how you can do it, right? Now, writing an email is an art. It's definitely not something that you can master it over a period of time, right? But slowly, while you keep facing rejections, while you start getting acceptances, you will know how exactly can I write those emails, right? So how do you go about writing an emails? For me, it's very, very simple. Do not keep that particular email very gibberish and focus on formatting the right font, putting in the right table, using the right colors, and a lot more, right? And when you're going to be sending out this particular email, get to the point a lot more quickly. Do not share a lot of stories, a lot of context. That will definitely not help. The second tip I'm going to give you in terms of writing an email is to demonstrate value and relevance. If your product is not relevant, or if you do not communicate that particular relevance or the value that you're going to be bringing in, your email is not going to do its magic. So talk about how your entire product can add value. What are the features of that particular product? How can they solve whatever challenges that they are having today as a part of this entire purchase that they're going to make it through you? So talk about all of those aspects as well. And last is in terms of be respectful and professional, right? You can definitely gain a lot more by writing it the right way, showing empathy, showing sympathy, being very, very respectful, because they're going to be reciprocating the same kind of professionalism and respectfulness that you showcased. The second recommendation that I have is in terms of doing a lot of in-mail outreach. Something that a lot of organizations that I work with or I've spoken to in the past do leverage is in terms of what has been the information that they can collect. On LinkedIn, there are a lot of information that you can get. You can use the premium insights of sorts to craft your entire messaging. I use, along with my team, a lot more in terms of ChatGPT. You would have heard that ChatGPT is the future. The good part about ChatGPT right now, it's completely free. All you need to do is log in using your Gmail account, all right, and then start asking questions to ChatGPT. So what I've done here is I've given a certain example saying that, hey, I'm reaching out to Ruchi Anand, who's the head of LinkedIn sales in India, and I want to specifically position my sales CRM product. Give me an email in less than 200 words. That's it. ChatGPT immediately gives you a neatly crafted email, all right, that you can use to send out to Ruchi Anand. On the other end, specifically in certain situations, keep it very, very informal. It's a huge recommendation that we at LinkedIn also give to our customers, saying that don't keep it very, very formal. You might say, hey, Karthik, you just told me email, you need to be professional and respectful, but here you're telling me keep it informal. There's a difference. You can continue being informal while you're being respectful and professional, right? So you can also ask ChatGPT saying that, hey, this email is very, very formal. Can you add a little bit of humor? Can you add a little bit of informality? And it'll make those particular changes and give you a recommendation. And if you feel that particular email is very, very long, ask ChatGPT again to generate a response, reduce it by 50 words. And it'll reduce it by 50 words and give you another email. So keep modifying it, keep changing it, right? So this is one recommendation that I will leave you with. Now that we've done outreach, let's just hope that you already see a lot of success. You see a lot of responses in positivity because you've followed all of these particular tips. But just in case, if you face a lot of rejections, I'm going to add one more step for you in terms of how do you do effective follow-up. There is a difference, right? When you're doing outreach, it can be very, very detailed. It can be a lot more information driven. But when you're doing follow-up, it should not be those kind of first outreaches that you've done. So I'm going to give you some more tips in terms of how do you effectively do a lot of follow-up. I'm going to give you 6 tips here, right? The first one is use effective subject lines. What I would perhaps use in a follow-up is, did you see my last email? Did you get my last email? Right? I think you missed my last message. Bumping up your inbox with my second message. Looking forward to hear from you. So be very, very creative in terms of writing those subject lines. And second is, don't feel rejected only after you reach out to one person and the person says no. Sometimes that might not be the right decision maker. You can always reach out to someone else within the organization. So I would recommend do a lot of multi-threading. For example, today at LinkedIn, because we sell a lot of HR related products, we start with talent acquisition heads or L&D heads, but we also go to the CHRO and the CEO of the organization. Tomorrow, let's just say the shop floor head rejected your entire proposal or said like, hey, I do not know if we'll need this. Do not stop there. Always think of who is the other person that you can reach out to. Can I reach out to the head of production? Can I reach out directly to the chief operating officer? Right? Can I, if not for this plant in Agra, can I reach out to some other plant of that organization in say Jaipur? Maybe they are facing that particular problem. Then you can have a foot in the door approach. The third tip that I'm going to give you is give a call to action. Don't end any particular email or in-mail with warm regards, yours faithfully, yours thankfully. No. Gone are the days wherein we are writing school letters, wherein we are talking about yours thankfully, yours faithfully. Eliminate that from your emails. Always have a call to action. When can I speak to you? Is there a number that I can reach out to you on? Does Wednesday or Monday work for you for a quick conversation? I would want to talk to you perhaps on Monday morning. 11:30 works for you? So always give a certain call to action. The next step, the fourth tip that I'm going to say is evaluate and adjust. Working beautifully for us, especially on marketing campaigns, when you're driving large scale campaigns of sorts. If you feel that message number A is not working for you, be okay with quickly pivoting it to message number B. Unless and until you keep changing these particular messaging, people are going to say that, hey, I've already read this particular email. I've already read this kind of communication. I do not want to listen to it again or hear it again. So keep making those adjustments, keep making modifications. Within my team, within my organization, we make changes every single month. We always try to improve on what has been for our last month. The fifth tip, patience. Sometimes it might take time. A beautiful example for me just happened this morning. There is one particular customer we've been trying to reach out to for the last 1 year, right? We've done a lot of product demos. We've done a lot of negotiations, pricing, all of that has happened. But somehow the customer just did not say yes. And all of a sudden, instead of talking to the HR manager, we thought like, let's just try. All right. And we wrote to the MD of the organization, and he wrote in a note to the HR manager saying that, hey, this is something that we are trying to solve for right now, right? Why don't you talk to Karthik? And I immediately got a message right now saying that, hey, we want to talk to you again. Let's close the deal right now. So sometimes it's okay. You need to be in front of customers. They need to remember you. So make it a point to have that patience. And the last part, this is something that I tell all my, sales executives, share your communication information. When you're writing an email, of course, your email ID is always there, but drop in a number. What if it is urgent? What if it is something that is that they're trying to solve on an important basis? You do not want to leave that iota of chance also to say, this person has to talk to me. Leave your number, right? So ensure that the person has the ability or the capability because you share your communication information, right? I have seen a lot of new age generation organizations saying that you can WhatsApp me on this particular number. If you think that WhatsApp is used only for personal purposes, a lot of companies are using WhatsApp for commercial conversations. So you can always set your information there as well. One of the other things that I've seen a lot of good sales executives say that if you want to book time with me, here's my calendar, right? So instead of doing a lot of back and forth, the customer first says, can we speak at 10:30? Oh no, 10:30, I have another customer conversation. My calendar is not free. Let's talk at 11 o'clock. Now, this back and forth will take time and derail the entire conversation. When you've caught the opportunity, do not let it go. So there are certain tools wherein you can connect it to your calendar, like Calendly and all of that, right? Wherein you can immediately give them information saying that this is my calendar. You can book some time with me, and it will immediately send a calendar invitation to both of you. So use those particular mediums to great effect. So this is an essential how you be very, very successful. This is a process. This is not going to be something that you can achieve over single day or sorts. But my recommendation is do not let it go. Until and unless you know which is the industry you're going to be selling into, until and unless you know, okay, this is the XYZ company I'm going to talk to, until you decide saying that, hey, these are the decision makers that I need to be talking to, until you talk and until you follow up, you will not achieve the process efficiency that you always want to, right? I always tell my team this one small piece of great advice that one of my mentors shared with me. When you're doing anything in sales, have the impatience with actions, but patience with results. It's a very, very powerful quote, right? Whenever you're planning to do anything or everything, do not procrastinate. It's a great idea. You've built that particular idea. You feel that, hey, this can really work. Do not showcase impatience. Ensure that you're working on it immediately, but have the patience with results. It will work. It has to work. And if you're sticking to the process, there is no reason why. There is enough opportunity for all of us in the world to meet our economic and personal financial ambitions of getting sales done effectively and a lot more beautifully of sorts. Normally, I do not end these particular conversations by saying thank you, but I'm going to say, let's get started. What you need to do is raise your hand, pat yourself on the back, saying that thank you for being a part of this entire journey of learning, because from today, you're going to be setting up yourself for success, because once you stick to the process, all right, there is no looking back. First recommendation that I have is look at identifying a company domain of sorts. आप Gmail से ना भेजें, alright, because Gmail has this entire propensity of going into the spam of sorts, right? Especially when people have it identifies a little bit of a trend saying that ऐसे emails आप like बिल्कुल मत भेजो, right? So people easily click on unsubscribe and move on. So I would recommend if you can invest a little bit in terms of buying a company domain, because that has a little bit of a higher success. All right. And the second part of it is especially what I would strongly recommend a lot of smaller decision makers to is in terms of making that investment into writing emails. आपको आसानी से मिल जाएगा, लाइक कम कॉस्ट में मिल जाएगा. अभी लिंक्डइन पे 5 से लेके 150 ईमेल तक आपको इजी में मिल जाएगा. इनमेल की ये खासियत है कि वो स्पैम पे कभी नहीं जाता, राइट? तो वो ऑलवेज इनबॉक्स में रहता है. और आजकल हमारा सिस्टम ऐसा इंप्रूव हुआ है कि हम 3 दिन के बाद रिकमेंडेशन देते कि आपने इस ईमेल को रेस्पॉन्ड नहीं किया, राइट? सो दैट्स अ ग्रेट वे फॉर यू टू गेट बैक ऑन टाइम, राइट? एंड द थर्ड पार्ट इज always use rich media. Something that I have noticed, especially in terms of sending out emails, right? If you can add in a certain picture, right? It has a lower propensity of going into spam, especially when something like a video or something like a link, or something like an image is shared of sorts. And the last part is, do not depend only on CRMs. Sometimes you need to personalize those particular emails as well. Sometimes, because of how it's coded, right? CRMs also have this functionality saying that Gmail will automatically identify them as spam and move it away, right? So don't depend only on CRMs. Sometimes you might want to personalize that because you're reaching out to a decision maker. So these are a few technical aspects that I would stick to. Firstly, in terms of finding out who is the right decision maker. And this is something that you will realize over time on how to do it very casually. But I'm going to give you a very formal approach, but of course, add in your own flavor of sorts. But I would do a little bit more discovery, right? I would ask the person saying that if we were to get started tomorrow, is there anyone else who has to be a part of the decision-making process, right? Or if you want to keep it very, very informal, or किसी को demo दिखाना है sir, right? Or you would also ask saying that I'm going to be getting the paperwork ready. Would you be signing the order, or is there anyone else who's going to be signing the order? Or या किसी और का नाम डालो, right? By asking all of these questions, you'll understand, is there another person in the hierarchy of sorts, in terms of not being very, very pushy. And that also comes into, at least in when I'm doing sales, right? Making it very, very discovery driven, right? Because until and unless you identify the pain point of that particular organization, which your product can solve, you will always have to keep pushing. I'll give an example within my organization, right? At LinkedIn, we sell a lot of products, which is essentially into saving a lot of money by not passing on those particular requirements to external staffing organizations, right? So that's what we help organizations do, a lot of saving. So I asked them, if you do not have the right people on your project, what is the loss for you as a business? right? So they say, hey, my project won't kickstart. The person I'm working on this with as a project will say, until unless you have all the people, I'm not going to give you that advance. Then you know that there's something really monetarily very driven, right? So that way you need to go into deeper layers of discovery. Because tomorrow, when you send out the proposal and the guy says, यार ये तो बहुत प्राइस ज्यादा है, आप कम करके दो मुझे. Now you know why he is buying. सर अगर आपने ये प्रोडक्ट पे या ये सर्विस पे आपने अगर इन्वेस्ट नहीं किया, आप बोल रहे तो 10 करोड़ का आपका प्रोजेक्ट रुक जाएगा. क्या आप 1 लाख के लिए इतना लाइक बैक एंड फोर्थ करोगे? आई एम श्योर यू वोंट डू दैट, right? So let's meet at the middle path. I'll give you like a discount in the next service subscription that you're going to give. But let's start with this right now. I do not want your project to get delayed. Now you're saying that I'm not coming across as pushy because you know what is the real pain point. So without knowing the real pain point, do not let it go. Persistence. Doesn't matter how bad or good the environment is. If you keep persisting and there is an intent behind that persistence, you can never fail. If you have not mastered ChatGPT, then you're not going to be looking into the future. The capabilities are immense. It's free. As long as it's free, use it to learn a lot more information. I don't even open linkedin.com to start off with. I always open ChatGPT before I start my work. So I have it on my phone. I have it on my system. I carry it everywhere. Without ChatGPT, you're not going to be successful. Focus on the input, not the output. If you believe that your input has been strong, results will happen. There is no reason why results won't happen. Trying to sell your product, focus on them, focus on their interests, and I'm sure you'll be able to do a good job. I tell a customer whenever they come to negotiate, right? Even before they start the negotiation process, I say negotiation is the birthright of a customer, but let's do it fairly. Read a lot. I would definitely recommend do reading for fun. And that's my favorite way. Whatever I've learned in my life, I've just done that through reading. So I would recommend read a lot. Do reading for fun. And that's my favorite way. Whatever I've learned in my life, I've just done that through reading. So I would recommend read a lot. If you're an entrepreneur, I would strongly recommend this book called The Maverick. It's about this particular person called Richard Semler, who inherited this company called Semco and converted it from like government-run business to an extremely democratic business of sorts. Amazing book. I would strongly recommend that you read that. Lee Iacocca, for all those people who don't know Lee Iacocca, his autobiography is very, very amazing. He was the one who fought with Ford and still made it happen. That's one more really good book that I would recommend. One last recommendation that I would give is this wonderful book that I've been recently given called Predictable Revenue. It's written by the person who headed pre-sales for Salesforce. And whatever is SFDC or Salesforce is today is because of this person. So definitely read this book called Predictable Revenue. I was so engrossed, I finished it in one day, and you'll find a lot of tips there. Focus on yourself, love your mind, keep calm in your personal life. You can't succeed in your sales life. So I would say, pat yourself on the back when you've done a good job, but don't be hard on yourself. Never take failure to heart. Today we are learning whatever we are learning because our leg is fractured, right? We do not know how to really walk. And I'm using that walker. That walker is essentially what ChatGPT is for me today. But it doesn't mean that I'm going to be using that walker forever. Eventually, I will learn enough using that walker, balancing myself, that I will run on my own. So don't get dependent on it. Use it. That's why I said, like, I didn't say keep on using it. Don't depend on it. But until and unless your leg is fine, you can use it. But then after that, running is going to be upon you. So this is actually one of my favorite tools. So this is the hyperlink. So I go to zobacorp.com, right? And this is where I say browse companies by activity, age, or location. If you already know the company, you can directly input it here. Otherwise, you can click on browse companies by activity, age, and location. You'll find all of these particular companies already listed. These are all the companies. There are close to 0.7 crore companies that are there on India right now. They actually directly take it from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, but it keeps syncing on a daily basis, right? So this is where you can filter it out. Like, for example, आप chase करना चाहते हो, let's start with location. As I say, Delhi में. I'm going to select Delhi, and then I'm going to come back and say, I want to look at all of those particular organizations which are doing a paid up capital of say 5 to 25 crores. And I can put in more filters saying that ye private company honi chahiye. So I select that and look at it. I get all of these particular companies, and then I can also say how old should the company be. So let's say 10 to 25 years, मेरा product ऐसा काम करता है कि अगर stable है company तो आसान से काम चल जाता है, all of that. And look at this, I get all of this particular information, and I can go into any of this. Like, for example, I click on this, I get this information. Now I know whom to start by reaching out to, but there are also other people who are mentioned. So this is one way. And I use this particular information, go on to LinkedIn. I just search for the name of this person and the name of the organization, and then मुझे LinkedIn का प्रोफाइल मिल जाएगा, वहां से शुरू कर दूंगा. अगर LinkedIn पे प्रोफाइल नहीं मिला तो मैं शायद उस कंपनी को कॉल करके इनके बारे में पूछ लूंगा. अगर वो है, then I start positioning my product, right? अगर वो कंपनी पे भी नहीं है, then उनका email ID ले लूंगा. Good part about doing all of this is when you get that email ID, don't lose it. That is your database. Right? Over a period of time, if you're a large business, start investing in CRMs, which can allow you to save all of that information. If you're a small business, you can definitely use simple Excel sheets also, right? And over a period of time, you can ask your subordinates to start searching for it. So Zobacorp is one of my favorite. Then Zoom Info bhi aisa hi kaam karta hai. I'll actually show it to you as well. So quite similar. They also have a lot of filters right here. It's not opening up, but they also have a lot of filters. So you can try out the free trial, and this really helps as well. So ये भी use कर देता हूँ. Especially when it comes to selling insurance, you need access to people.
Yes.
So abhi, like, there are two, three databases that allow you to easily connect to people. और पहला होता है कि LinkedIn पे definitely जाओ, क्योंकि वहाँ पे क्या होता है कि जो लोग वहाँ पे है, usually कोई ना कोई जॉब पे है या बिजनेस के ओनर्स है, वहाँ पे जाके आप आसानी से ढूंढ सकते हो लोगों को. Like, I'll just give you a quick example. मैं LinkedIn पे चला जाऊंगा. I can search for people using all the filters. So, for example, I'm sure आप इंश्योरेंस बेचना चाहते हो बड़े बड़े लोगों को, तो आप यहाँ पे बार पे आ जाइए. यहाँ पे people करके है, आप कर सकते हो, और उसके बाद में आप एडिशनल फिल्टर्स डाल सकते हो. मैं क्लिक करूंगा ऑल फिल्टर्स पे. यहाँ पे आप जहाँ पे भी लोकेशन है या आपका टाइटल, लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल, all right, and perfect. Let me come to the location filter. So I'm just typing out CEO, and I'll select the location as Chandigarh. There you go. And I click on this, and I automatically get a lot of these people. So what I would do is perhaps click on one of these particular profiles, and then click on this and send a message to Gaurav. या दूसरा तरीका ये भी है, आप ज़ोबा को आप यूज कर दीजिए। यहाँ पे आपको डायरेक्टर्स का डिटेल्स मिल जाएगा जो काफी सीनियर है, राइट। आप थोड़े बहुत लोगों का इधर ईमेल आईडी भी मिल जाता है आपको, तो आप उनको ईमेल भी कर सकते हो। थोड़े बहुत कम लिस्टिंग्स में, और आपको थोड़ा ढूंढना पड़ेगा ज़ोबा कॉर्प में, वहां पे आपको नंबर भी मिल जाएगा, राइट। अगर नंबर मिल गया, लैंडलाइन नंबर मिल गया, या डायरेक्टर का नंबर मिल गया, if there's someone else that you can talk to, just give them a call. That's also something that you can definitely do.